This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight, now we bring a discussion on tackling effectively the challenges of natural disasters. The participants are Tripti Parul, former advisor, National Disaster Management Authority, and Aditi Tandon, journalist.
Disaster related to a weather, climate or water hazard occurred every day on an average over the past 50 years, causing around $202 million in losses daily worldwide, according to a comprehensive new review which the World Meteorological Organization recently published. We know that climate change is leading to extreme weather events, and we also know that these weather events are impacting countries across the world. In our own country, we are seeing cloudbursts in hilly areas. We've just seen a cloudburst in Amarnath, which claimed 17 lives. Then we've had a series of landslides in Himachal Pradesh, Kullu, Shimla in very recent days, leading to losses of life. And just yesterday, we saw a heavy rains batter Gujarat and leading to at least 7 deaths already. And last month, Assam also saw massive waterlogging on account of flooding because of heavy rain. So these range of weather events that are overwhelming the country and the natural disaster response mechanism of government. How do you think the climate change and related patterns are first of all impacting these kind of weather events?
So you first have to understand, Aditi, that there are certain kinds of natural disaster which can be predicted and which cannot be predicted. So the certain floods and rainfalls and all this natural disasters, these are all predicted disasters. So there is always a disaster arrangements, then during disaster and then after disaster arrangements can be made. And there are certain natural disasters like earthquake and avalanche or cloudburst which can't be predicted. So government can only take measures after disaster. But also prevention measures can be taken. So all these recent floods and cloudburst, the Amarnath Yatra cloudburst, the recent Gujarat floods, every year the Assam floods that happens. So these are the events which up to certain level can be controlled with certain mechanisms, certain measures that can be taken on the part of the government and also public. So awareness is very, very important part of it. And that's what NDMA have been involved for a long time doing awareness campaigns. Those are the things that can be taken up, and also environment. Environment needs to be looked up in certain way that, like if we are talking about Himalayas, if we are talking about cloudburst that in last decade has increased so much. It's because so many choppers flying around, so many things happening in the Himalayas, trees being cut, pine trees are increasing in a big number because of road constructions. A lot of things are happening in the hilly areas which needs to be kept a check. A balance and a check is very, very important.
Like you said, Triptiji, that certain natural disasters can be predicted while the others are hard to predict, and therefore awareness is important. What I wanted to understand from you is that over the last many years, especially since the tsunami of the Indian Ocean which claimed so many lives, a lot of investments in the coastal areas have also been made in early warning systems by the government here. Because you know that 1/3 of the Indian population lives in coastal areas, so they are constantly at risk not only from tsunamis but also from cyclones and storm surges. So as you said earlier, these early warning systems have been installed, especially I think in the cyclone vulnerable areas. These are really saving lives. And when you say awareness among people, what kind of awareness would you talk about, for instance, in the Himalayan regions? You are mainly referring to the ecological balance, is it? Can you elaborate?
Not just mainly, but yes, that's a very, very important factor. And if we are talking about urban floods, for example, then, awareness just before urban floods, the drainage system should be prepared. Local municipals should be prepared about it. You have to ensure that all your drainage systems are clean and open and, clear for water flow. You have to ensure that enough water flow can happen around. I mean, you can't go on cementing your roads and pathways and everything, because if you don't leave space for your water flow, if you don't have enough trees to suck the water on the ground to earth, then there will be urban flooding happening. You look at what is happening in Gujarat, that, extension of all that. Now, natural flows of water have been stopped because of the urban land scarcity, and you keep on covering the lands which is supposed to have some water storage or natural water bodies and all that in the cities and towns. Then, of course, the flood occurrence will increase and these kind of disaster is prone to happen.
You made a very important point just now about the need to have proper drainages. But encroached properties, encroached roads, encroached areas on the banks of rivers is a major political issue with most governments.
Yes.
And very few governments are showing the political will to actually approach this issue from an environmental, ecological point of view, because encroachments are a disaster in making. What do you have to say on that?
So our own Constitution of India says we the people of India. So this is like sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. So it belongs to us, you and me, us. So only government cannot be held responsible for all these things that is happening. I mean, that is why I said awareness is extremely important. So if people get aware, if RWA is aware, for that matter, I'm just saying a very small scale example. So if RWA is aware, and they are not going to cover their footpaths with, more cementing. If they have enough trees in their area, if they ensure their drainage system is clear, then at least in that area there will be no waterlogging. So similarly, it can increase. So awareness is extremely important, and political will, yes, of course, but if public wakes up and realizes this is what is happening, this is harming us, no one else. It's not harming the Prime Minister of the country only. It is harming all the people around.
Yeah.
Plastic clogging in the pipes, we just throw it away. We don't care. And then it comes down to government is not doing anything. So urban waste management is extremely important. Himalayas extremely sensitive. All of us will have to wake up that it's the youngest mountain in the world. And we can't keep killing it. We can't keep road construction happening like we don't need roads on which we can drive 90 kilometers an hour. So much of explosive has been used to construct roads. It goes against the environment. It is obvious that landslides and avalanche and all that will increase. Cloudburst will increase because there are no trees left. There are, no forest, Himalayan forest. Hardly there are any oak forests left in the Himalaya today. It's all pine trees, which doesn't have that much of capacity to stop the rain or the flood.
That's a very important point that you made of collective responsibility towards nature. I think ultimately everything is about citizens' response.
Aditi, if you want to go to the Himalayas in the rain and you want to enjoy a holiday, it's very difficult now. Which road will you take? It affects us directly. It's not indirect effect. It is affecting all over. So it's awareness which is extremely important, and I think government should take more measures in creating way more awareness.
In fact, what you just said reminds me of Prime Minister Modi's message at the Glasgow summit also, where this issue was discussed about climate change. And the Prime Minister has been for long making the point of one earth, one health, and also in the climate change perspective. COVID-19 has also showed us, Tripti, how the world is interconnected. Nobody can survive any longer by thinking just about themselves because everything is so interconnected. Going forward, what are the immediate messages you would have for any government of the day? Because you are looking at the intensity with which the disasters are rising. Obviously, people are not discharging the responsibility that they need to. So till the time people actually wake up to this very important ecological responsibility, what should be done by the governments concerned?
Like we talk about recent calamity that is happening in the mountains, well, Uttarakhand, Himachal, wherever. So then if you look at it, at least the waste management in the Himalaya that can be easily taken up by the government. So there are trucks that goes up to every point in the mountain to deliver things. So anything if you want in the mountains, if it's a pack of biscuit or whatever, it is delivered by lorries and trucks. Now when they return empty. So instead of returning empty, those lorries can be filled with waste which is lying around the Himalayas. We can start using seed balls and start growing Himalayan forest, not pine forest, but Himalayan forest. And, gradually big change can happen within a couple of years only.
Tripti, one particular aspect that largely gets ignored in disaster response is the impact on animals. Yesterday, this picture went viral of cattle in Gujarat getting washed away. One has looked at the National Disaster Management Act. It is not very clear about how to respond to animals caught in disaster because a lot of Indian population depends on livestock for their livelihood. And NDMA itself had issued flood guidelines at one time, which had said that 94,000 animals in India perish in floods every year.
Yep.
That's a huge number.
If you look at the whole food chain, Aditi, don't just look at livestock like a goat or cow or buffalo or something like that, but look at the whole food chain. If we do not respect nature, if we do not respect the food chain, then we are going to lose it big time. You look at what happened in Yellowstone National Park, USA. In that food chain of Yellowstone National Park, and this is not a very old story, this is only 95. For last 70, 80 years, the whole food chain was disturbed. So there was nothing left in that whole Yellowstone National Park. Only some deers and sambas and no vegetation, no ecosystem, nothing was there. Every single year river was dying there. And then they introduced wolf. Wolf changed the whole river system, the whole ecosystem. They brought back the whole food chain. Then the whole ecosystem, Yellowstone National Park, was revived in 5 years. So if you look at, what is happening right now is every single year, like you said yesterday, there was a video went viral of a livestock being washed away. Now every single year, same happens in Assam. And hundreds of animals. And those are like really, really, really important animals for the whole ecosystem, for the whole environment and everything. And hundreds of them, they get washed away, they get poached, they get killed, they get misplaced. And it happens every single year. So we have to ensure and we have to start taking up measures to save them. Only they are going to save us.
And now I think we also are coming up with a national digital livestock mission where 53 crore livestock will actually be documented and every animal will be ID'd. So the National Digital Livestock Mission apparently has some pilots running now in 2 states, Uttarakhand and Karnataka. Maybe they are adding something onto it. Here I also remember, Tripti ji, a very interesting judgment of the Uttarakhand High Court in 2018 where, the issue of food chain and animals caught in disasters was being discussed, and the court actually came up with a statement saying animals should be treated as legal entities, having a distinct persona with corresponding rights and liabilities of a living person. So exactly what you are saying.
Court also said, Ganga is a living entity. Now, saying is good, but are we accepting it? And we can't because, you don't expect normal people to think about such things. They are more worried about if they have food in their plate or not, if they have roof on top of their head or not. It's the overall policy that has to be really, really taken up seriously. And we have to respect local, old wisdom and tradition. We have to include that in our policies.
Coming back to the issue of early warning systems, there has been a debate for a long time on the capacity of the Indian Meteorological Department also to forecast monsoons. There have been ups and downs in forecasting, and this remains a continuous challenge. There is a section of disaster responders that feel that there is lack of impact-based forecast in the country even today, and there's poor dissemination of this information to people who are at risk of disasters. What is your own experience in this field, and what can be done to?
I think that Indian Meteorological Department is very good. They have a lot of accuracy in their work. But the problem you have to understand is there's something called local weather. Now, Indian Meteorological Department, IMD, can predict the overall larger weather. Okay, but there's something called very, very localized weather. And that is happening because we have jolted the environment so much and so deep that local weather have developed. Now, this local weather cannot be predicted by any kind of meteorological equipment. So IMD is very, very accurate in predicting cyclones and rainfalls, and they are doing marvelous job. But this local weather, whether it is in a hilly area or whether like all of a sudden there will be a heavy rainfall happening in a plain area or wherever, these things can't be predicted, Aditi.
So we come back to shared responsibility and the original narrative that you were trying to build, that it is the citizens that have to take control now.
If you, me, we don't understand this environment belongs to us. If you, me don't understand that we cannot be throwing plastics on the road. We can't be clogging the drainage system and then expect that during the rainfall no waterlogging happening. It's not going to happen.
So obviously the governments of the day in states and in union territories, along with the central government, also has to understand, Tripti, that electoral and political expediency has to be kept on the shelf if nature has to be saved and disasters averted in future. Tripti, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Aditi.
You were listening to a discussion on tackling effectively the challenges of natural disasters. The participants were Tripti Parul, former advisor, National Disaster Management Authority, and Aditi Tandon, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio.